All right. So, happy Thursday. We are live. Normally, I'm live at this time with Melissa, and we're doing a consciousness conversation. Today, we're doing a whole complete different thing. We are going to plan on having the reverends Meddy and Jeff on board here to have a conversation with them, but Melissa is not feeling well today. So, you're actually with Spiritual Wisdom with Dr. Thomas. I don't know where the wisdom comes from, no, but we are here. We are here to have a conversation today, and I'm delighted to have my dear friends with us. So, Jeff and Meddy, welcome. I'm glad to have you both on here. Hopefully, it's knock on fake wood or whatever we want to say to your guides. Don't turn the internet off because I already lost them once, and you guys, I know you don't want to always hear me speaking, but welcome. I've known Jeff Meddy now for
several years.
Well, all right. I know him in this life.
Okay.
Yeah. In this life, really for like 2 years.
About that.
Talk about that. And I met you guys. It had to be like October. It was October, 2020, 2021?
21, when we did the firewalk.
We did a firewalk in the freezing rain.
Yep.
And
it was definitely a Lemurian mud-filled firewalk. Woo!
Yes. And I love that you say that, Lemurian, because I tell you, that story still to this day, I think about it. I think about that firewalk. And you guys probably tell it better than I do, but I'm listening there and listening to you guys talk and your guide saying, well, you asked for a Lemurian firewalk, so that's what we gave you.
They gave you the mud. Here you go. Get close to the earth.
Yes. Stacia, welcome. Hey, we have one person watching. Woohoo! We have two, but Stacia's hi. But guys, take a moment if you want to introduce yourselves. Ladies first. I see you look at you, Jeff, and I'm like, I'm ready to go first.
I am Meddy. I have been doing all kinds of eclectic spiritual things for, the last 30 plus years. Jeff and I co-pastored a interfaith spiritualist church, honoring the traditions of spiritualism, but bringing in other aspects of the ancient type of worship. And very much an earth-based person. Love my gardening, love my lizards. The doorway behind us leads to the lizard room. I just enjoy speaking and working with people. I am considered a medium, sometimes psychic, but more of the medium. And yes, so I do see, hear, sense those who have crossed over and other beings. I worked as a vet tech for almost 20 years, so animals mean quite a bit to me, and communicating with them is an important part of my life. And went back to school later in life after the kids went to college. And for me, anthropology is an important aspect of who I am and how I view the world. The cultural aspects of how human development continues to, or hopefully, evolve on this planet. And
hopefully,
we can always have hope. So yeah, that's a nutshell.
On the evolution side of that is my field, and that's philosophy. As someone would say, yeah, I'm gonna go to the other room so I don't have to listen.
It's a lot of thinking about thinking.
And mainly the background is primarily the same for the last few decades. I've been very eclectically spiritual, everything from conventional Christian up to spiritualism to Kabbalism to you put 2 and 3 together and you might get 6. So and we enjoyed our time as pastors, and then as the desire to go to a physical church waned, we found an opportunity for us to go and return to education now that the kids were done, and put our minds to the test. As you can see, it's pushing out. So
pushing out. I'm gonna keep mine in for a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, my kids are all grown, and so it's interesting to have an adult life now with trying to figure out who and what we are and where our avenues go. So we've been doing quite a bit,
Very eclectic. If
changing things up for ourselves.
As my students will go, Professor J, what don't you do? Well, I don't do anthropology. That's her job.
Hey, somebody's got to do it.
Yeah,
exactly. And so I love that, and I love how you use the word eclectic, and you guys have such a diverse background, and even the whole part where you said, the need. I might say the right word, but it was almost like the feeling that you have to be at a church, kind of weaned, and you move somewhere else.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean it's not coming back. It just means wherever you are in your life
transforms to a different way.
Right.
And amazingly, a pandemic hit and nobody went to a physical church.
Right.
And, I served the Rochester Spiritual Society for about a year, doing their speaking for them on Sundays, and enjoyed that immensely. And, it's just, obviously change happens, and we've been very lucky and blessed.
Very blessed. Thank you, COVID, for shutting the world down and changing ways things done. Otherwise, I wouldn't be teaching in Miami right now.
Yeah, so
I'm in Miami right now.
Right, yeah.
How do I get that job?
But it's that idea that listen to the callings. Don't be concerned, or worry. You can always be concerned, but don't be worried when things suddenly seem to be shifting and doors closing, because Spirit is telling you it's time to move. It's time to move on to something else.
Yeah.
Not that it's better, worse, or that you didn't serve a purpose, but obviously there's something else that we have to learn. And
even for those who don't necessarily adhere to one sense of spirituality, it's all still a structure. And as long as the structure is sound and you understand what that structure is going to be, and you focus on that structure, then it makes itself known. We wouldn't have written this book in
2 weeks.
We put it together in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
It usually takes a lot longer than that, and we're starting to go on with some other parts of it too.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Good. And a couple things you said, I just want to reiterate. One, I say this a lot, and I love how the two of you are really great examples of this. Your life continued on a journey.
Mm-hmm.
I often, and I've been saying this for the past couple of years, even before I started channeling, probably wasn't channeling information anyways, but often I would describe people as, when they get into this spiritual realm, when they get into their knowledge, to whatever wisdom they have, and they say, I'm not channeling. I'm going to be good. Right? I'll channel later. Let's see, I close my eyes and I get in trouble. Not in trouble, I just switches.
Mm-hmm.
But I often describe it as being on a cliff. You're climbing up this mountain, you're on this great path, and you reach this plateau. And you stop for a day and you look out and you say, oh my goodness, I see the waterfall, I see this, I see that. It's beautiful. It's where I want to live, where I want to be. So your one day turns into a couple nights. And then, a few more visitors there, and they stop with you. Next thing you know, you've set up this village. It's because the cliff can expand. You set up this beautiful village, and you can go down to the waterfall, come back up, and you forget that you are on a path, and the path is still going up.
Yep.
And you don't see, because the clouds are there, but you don't realize it goes up infinitely.
Mm-hmm.
But so many people stop at that cliff, and they see that as the end result. Like,
this is it. Yeah.
When you were doing the church, that could have been like the end result, but you felt it, and you knew that when change happened, there was more. There was more for growth. There's more to learn, more to do, more to go off, and that you still had that, and it was always there, and it will always be there with you. But whatever you're learning is, you've gone through, and you've told me so many stories. I mean, the stories you both have told me about things that have happened in your life. I mean, I love how you guys met the first time, and who met you first, addressed the first time you guys met. I love all that stuff. I'm gonna ask you to share that in a second. But it's accepting this is happening. The changes are going, and there's more to grow, and you're always in this growth pattern. And it's nice to stand and watch the view. It's nice to have what you have, but to not think this is the end. This is all there is I need to know, because I'm being told what I want. And a lot of times, I see this. A lot of times, many times, many times, you just think you have it. And you get the message one way, so it's always going to be that way. And people rely on the same thing to always happen the same way. And then when it doesn't, they don't know what to do because they expect it to be the same way. When things have changed, you have grown. The way to hear, the way to move forward has shifted. But so many people just expect it to be the way it was without the new growth, without new. And we share this because they expect to always have the message come to them the same way, and not realize the guides, they're trying to speak to you in a new way. They can get to you much easier. They can tell you things in a much clearer way. But everyone's like, oh, I'm here. I'm putting my feet up. I'm on this perch, and this is how I'm going to be for the rest of my life. Okay, good, done. All right, so we'll have you talk now. But I say that. So I'm going to ask. I love this story. Just talk about how you guys met and what happened.
We met at church.
Yes,
I know you did that.
We met at church, and it was very interesting. So I had a relationship end, and the first time that I actually made it to the church, I saw this young man at that time, and there were 2 kids with him, and I'm like, okay, single dad brings the kids to church or whatever. And then I found out, nope, that's his niece and nephew by marriage, and he had just separated from his wife, and I didn't get to the church until after he was separated, and I had tried going, and like the one day the battery of the car was dead, and another week we were late, and I'm like, oh, it's a new church. I'm not walking into a new church late. And then when I did meet him, I did not particularly care for him.
The Spirit showed her basically 2 people that were in the congregation that day.
But I had a name for him that about a bit of arrogance, but I was sitting in the back, and messages are part of the spiritualist church, and he was delivering a message, and in my head, my voice, one of my voices that speaks to me and guides, and when they speak, I can argue as much as I want, and I usually do, but I heard, he's the one. And Jeff was delivering a message to this other young man in the front row, and I looked at them, and I'm like, which one? And my answer was, for what? Because not interested in either at the time. I actually ended up dating the other one for a little bit for a while, but I ended up with the one. But
I almost put a kibosh on that really stupidly because my male genetics got the mouth going without the brain saying, hey, stop, shush.
But we worked it out. We figured it out, and it'll be 15 years this.
And she did end up being the woman of my dreams.
So, we are partners in all things. Yes. We are best friends because we dated other people at that point in our lives, and we were driving home one time from a seminar in Rochester out to Wayne County, and we were talking, and we were whining and complaining about the people that we were dating, and I don't even know which one of us said it, but we said it'd be a lot easier if we were just dating each other.
Silence for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, we had like 10 more miles to go, and it was like complete silence. He dropped me off at my house, and it was like this awkward thing. And then I remembered telling my kids, they were probably early middle school.
Brennan was 11, I think.
Yeah, and my daughter, I told him, I said, Jeff and I have been talking, and we decided to try dating. And my daughter goes, "It's about time." So, but we had just been best friends and supporting each other in our journeys, and realized, yeah, okay, that it's all working to that point of being comfortable with each other. And that's
Mhm.
even when he went back for his graduate degree. He spent 4 years in Albany. I stayed in Williamson, and people were like, when he was moving out
Are
to
you
get the
okay?
apartment, and they were like, "Oh, we're
Is your
so
marriage
sorry."
okay?
And we're like,
Just
"About
fine.
what?" We're like, he's going to Albany, to get his degree. And, that's the whole idea, that concept that in order to have a stable relationship, you must be in physical, proximity to each other.
Yeah.
Well, for us, it was absolutely fantastic. We each got to do the things that we needed to do for ourselves and grow and respond and have quality time together when, we would meet here or there or
Mhm.
somewhere in between. And, that's what I find an interesting ability now in this technical age where we can be connected, although we're only probably 45-minute drive away from, us from you, we're connected here, and we can be connected to people all over the place, in this planet and beyond. And all they have to do is tune in, and that's what's so incredible. Energy is energy, and we can transform ourselves and our environment just by sending that energy and thinking. That's what it's about.
One of the unique portions, we had been dating for a little while, and something just felt similar. If felt like it didn't just feel like, oh, we've been knowing each other for so long. No, we have known each other forever, literally forever, probably. And I started talking about certain memories and about certain stuff that was in here that I was being told that needed to come out again. And then all of a sudden, across, I think we were at Friendly's,
I
and
think so.
and across the table, all of a sudden, I get this. What? And all of a sudden, mesh. Everything just came right back together. Scaringly together, but
Yeah.
it did come back together.
It's you're talking, and my first thing that's popped in my mind is, so we now have another conversation. So we're planning like now 3 more conversations with you guys. But then like in my head, I'm like, we need what you're saying. So I've had this conversation with Melissa multiple times, and with other people, even Stacia. We've had these talks about relationships, and what I've been saying to people about relationships and how they really work and what is needed. I'm just sitting back here, and you guys are telling me the same thing. But here's the thing: you guys are the living proof.
We are living proof.
You're the evidence of it, because so many people, as you've said, feel that a relationship is, oh, you're connecting at the hip and you're doing everything together, and you got to always want. No, what you guys have said is perfect,
Right.
because you have the energy connected, but you're both living the lives in your own growth the way it needs to be. But you make that quality time, you put it together. Jeff, you had to go away for those 4 years because, you're working on your degree. And but you were coming back, you were meeting back and forth, you were doing what you needed to do. It didn't deter who you were and what the relationship was.
Yeah.
If anything, I would say it probably got it stronger.
Yeah.
Because you both grew together and in your ways,
Independently. Yeah.
which is so important.
It's still even to the point now where I have an opportunity coming up this summer where I'm likely going to be away from the house for 6 weeks,
Mhm.
and just fine, absolutely fine. I'm doing what I love doing, and when you focus on what you love doing, everything tends to work. Yeah, sure. Is everything going to be absolute nirvana? No, because we're still here.
Yeah, we're
There's
humans.
Right.
we're going to feel this body, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. So we have time left, and we have about 10 minutes left. And I want to shift gears a little bit. I want to get more into the spirituals. And I know you both do a lot. Meddy, I've gone and I've spoken with both of you, actually, Jeff, at when you did the experience, psychic fairs, whatever. And,
Mhm.
and Jeff, you're not saying you're the sideshow with it. You had the cards going on. And Meddy,
Rather, I am, yeah.
no, it is. And Meddy's sitting there. She has a booth, and she has, I can't even describe the biogenetics. Am I right with that?
Biogenesis. Yep.
Yeah, and so you've got all that going on, and you both are spiritual in that regard. I do want you to. So I remember before I walk, you share the story of how you, when you met, you first introduced yourself to Jeff's guide. Is that correct?
I
the beginning of that.
When I saw him, his guide was behind him, and yeah,
behind me.
yeah, you know, and just the fact that I was able to speak directly to his guide kind of, made him question the whole thing. And
because you don't normally see that type of guide. That type of guide is strictly tied to you and you only.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was one more sign of like, okay, if she can see him,
yeah,
and I've seen him all my life,
yeah,
and nobody else has.
how does that all work?
There's
And
something
then
here.
and then we have another guide who is faded out in the last, a human
He's been busy.
who passed on, that came to Jeff as a guide, and immediately when I came into the picture, as friends, immediately came to me and showed himself well to me. He is a bit of a trickster, and so mooned me just to see my reaction. So it's, guides have interesting abilities too. While he was a very amazing person here while on the planet and as a guide, his ability to just break through the barriers in the spiritual life. Yeah. So, that is one of the things. So the fact that we could share guides, and I had never met Jeff's father. Both of our fathers passed away when we were younger. And I get to
He
hear.
gets to hear now more than I ever had to.
Because he goes, I'm not listening. And I hear him all the time. And some of his comments, I'll be like, John, that's enough. So, but John has rules. There's rules about no bathroom and no bedroom, in our house. So we make rules for guides and especially family members. So,
Especially that one.
But yeah, it's like we have the ability, and I have been blessed with amazing gifts that, for me, I put away for a long time because it made me the weird one as as a child.
Made?
And yeah.
Makes.
And so I put so many of those away, but it allowed me to be and do what I needed to do in my life to get me here. But having that ability to kind of almost eavesdrop into his guides, he doesn't have the same ability to eavesdrop back into mine.
No, but for someone who can hear really well, they can get shut off here really easy too, especially when we're trying to do a secret for each other.
Yeah, so it can be fun. It can be frustrating,
very much so. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes. So Stacia commented, did he just call Jeff a sideshow? Yes, Stacia. And Jeff agrees. We both know Meddy takes the show.
Well,
no.
When we did the experience, he was experience psychic fairs. I was doing healing work, and typically he was my front man. Then when we did
bouncer,
my bouncer, and basically it helps to keep, as I'm doing the healing work, I'm all in. And so if there's somebody that comes up to the table, I don't even know that they're there. So, doing that. So, and then when we've done Destiny psychic fairs, that's up more like in the Canton, that direction. He usually does readings and I do healing work. My preference is to do healing work because I can get just as much information doing a healing work to share with them, that makes it, a complete reading in itself, but also get to do the work that spirit wants done for them. So rather than just doing, I wouldn't say just doing, but doing, the readings at the table. So that's my preference, but I'll do readings. I'll in fact, we're at the end of this month, we're doing doing readings in Geneseo. Yeah. So but yeah, it's sideshow. But he's my protector. He's always been my protector.
Sort of like, the warm-up act. You keep the
Yeah.
crowd engaged, and it's you both. And I know, and trust me, I know you both have these gifts, and we've had these conversations. I find it funny there when it came to that, but so I'm going to take us back a little bit.
Bless you, bless you, bless you, bless you, bless you,
bless you, bless you, bless you, bless you.
I got got just one sneeze.
Yeah,
and many. There's so many different things we can talk about, but so it was about. So we met. I said in the beginning, we met almost a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Like it was 2021. We met during the fire walk for the first time, and fast forward maybe 4 or 5 months to February. Now that February is about a year ago. I was having what I would call the biggest awakening in my life, going through a lot, but in a way that it was amazing. And I've probably shared some of the story. I haven't shared it all, but I remember. I can still remember. We were on a phone call. Our friend, the Reverend Sheila, she was doing her typical. It was her Tuesday night light workers group. She was gathered everyone together, and we're all there. And I know I was not fully with it, going through stuff. And afterwards, it was all done. And unexpectedly, I get ring, 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 ring. And I'm like, what? And it was Meddy and Jeff, the two of you are calling me up. And the looks you gave me, and what you're like, the smile you had on your face, I can still remember this. It was like, oh, honey, we've been waiting to talk to you. We've been wanting to tell you the stuff. And all of a sudden, I'm like, what is going on here? And you just said, we want you to do this. We want you to read this. We want you to watch this, and just do that. And it was like, we know who you are, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what is going on?
But you needed to figure that out. Yeah.
Right. I needed to figure it out. Exactly. But it was the time. The timing is always right. And what I was going through was this huge awakening, reawakening to the whole new energy,
Cleansing.
Whole new thing, cleansing, whatever you want to call it. Now I laugh because I seriously, I joke, but it's true. Like, don't take me to a haunted house. Okay, it ain't gonna be haunted when I leave that house. All right, so I thought, we take care of it. No matter how nice the ghost is, we're sending it back to the love and light. But the book you told me to read, it was what you wrote. And I'm gonna have you guys talk about it in a second. I share this with some people, and I've shared it more recently now. When I was reading it, I don't think I've ever cried as much in my life. When I was, I'd have my little phone, reading it, and I just kind of stopped. I was crying so much, and I heard this story so many times in my life, but it was the most accurate. Might be the best way of putting it. It made so much sense, and I love it. The cover of this, maybe I'll be able to pull the picture. There you go. You got it there. But it was funny because I remember one of the first things that we had in this conversation that night. I said the word twin. And you two looked at me. And it was like, shit, what are you saying? This is it. I mean, it was there. And so you got the book there. And I'm gonna butcher the titles and let you guys talk. But tell me how the book came about, why it was written.
And it started at Friendly's.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, what I'd like to do is on the back, we wrote something that I think is important. Many celebrate the beginning of the story, and most know how it ends. But we were told the middle didn't matter. What if 18 years of your life were silenced? What if men grasping for power or driven by greed only revealed part of the rest of the story? What if the mere mention of your name was synonymous with acts of betrayal? How would your life be recorded by men who feared losing their dominance over women and viewed children as meddling demons who would steal their inheritance? We only know a fraction of the legend, yet scores of people are searching for answers that speak to their heart. They have told us for centuries that the middle of the story doesn't matter. Shouldn't that be your choice? And for us, this idea of Jesus, Yeshua, here with this being Holy Week, Maundy Thursday, this idea when you asked us, to come on, it was like, yep, this is time. We had this idea of writing the story, and it wasn't necessarily our idea. Spirit, we had been thinking about it, but Spirit goes,
now
do it. It has to be done.
Sleepless nights at the computer.
And I handwrite
Dictation,
everything in pencil on paper, and of course Jeff is always at the computer. But we were sitting there and we were told, with what we call our capital T, we were told we needed to write the story. We had to write it, had to get it published, had to do and get it done. And we were given this time limit. And so we had to put together like a little storyboard of a couple of the different pieces that wanted to come through with this particular part of the story, and given a date. And so we didn't even get to look at it in published form before we had to actually give it the ISBN, which officially puts it out there. And what was amazing about that, because this is a look at a very different, and for me, from the anthropological aspect and the cultural stories and the way that we tell stories, it challenges some ways that the interpretation over centuries was modified. But what was really, that was part of it. But what was really, really cool for us was that the day that it was published, later that morning, or the next day, the next morning, was the big controversial statement by the professor who had the piece of parchment that says,
the wife of
Jesus said to my wife.
Yeah.
And of course, that's all been discounted and debunked that that's not true. But it was so interesting, because we had no idea why we had to have this rush. We sat out on the on the front porch with a a whiteboard and sticky notes and moving things around, and had to have this done, not edited, not any of that kind of stuff. And that next day was this statement of a physical thing of my wife and Yeshua having a wife.
And the voice that both of us heard, it was the voice that we hadn't heard in a very long time.
Yeah.
Very long time.
That this is something that we had to do. And then we thought, we believed, because we know there's 3 of these novellas to put together. And we thought that the next one was coming out very quickly. And then everything just went
silent.
Wait.
Yep.
Wait. Silent. So we published this in 2012.
Yeah.
So I guess
almost 12 years later.
It's time. So, because they've been calling for us, but there hasn't been a push yet. Yeah. So,
and their push is going to have to wait for a little bit.
Yeah, he's teaching 5 philosophy courses this semester, and then has 3 courses that he's teaching in a 6-week section for the summer course. So yeah, he's going to be a little busy. So but maybe it's my turn to write, because I write it all by hand, and eventually he'll have time to type it all in.
I myself have actually started writing one of the other ones. We thought it was going to be a continuation of the story where it left off. It turned into something completely different. It turned into vignettes. It turned into, how one person sees it from this point of view, how the other person. This is the general story, and then it's the one view. It's another person's view.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know, but the other thing that we love is the artwork that's on there. So most people, you look at it, and then what then we tell people is to turn it upside down. And so you have then this goblet, this chalice, um, and there's the seven sisters, this crazy star cluster up in the sky,
And
pouring out this red wine hair. So
and shockingly, that not shockingly that the talent was there. We knew our daughter had the talent to do it, but she did it in 2 hours.
yeah, we
And she
told
goes,
her
"How's this?"
we told her what we wanted,
That's
what
exactly
we were
I wanted.
looking for, and she came back, and that's what she gave us.
Yeah.
And it was like, yep, that will work. So
Mm-hmm.
and she was in high school at the time, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's 2 weeks, and it was out, and
we haven't changed it since. Are there a couple typos or
Sure.
things in there? Yeah. You know what? But nothing that goes, "Ooh, what does that say?"
right.
And for those that maybe aren't familiar with biblical texts or other texts, it might be very, very difficult to try to follow. The Aramaic Hebrew names are used. So Yeshua for Jesus, of course, Miriam for the Marys. And then there's that other character,
Yehuda,
so
my favorite.
so Judas, but not the anglicized names.
No.
And it takes a story and fills in gaps. But what I always liked is if somebody says, "Who are you?" My given name at birth was Suzanne, so I was Suzanne and Sue, and Meddy was something I chose for myself in my 20s, and have been, I'm almost 53. So Meddy, but there's another name I have, Mom. My many other people call me different things. So when you're saying who I am, if you call me by one name, but somebody else calls me by another, does that make me two people? Or does that make me just one? And
Or a myriad.
or many of them. But it's interesting when people describe, or when we look at biblical texts, how different things are called, or if someone was called the elder, that didn't mean it was a different person. Or when we look at things like the name Thomas is an Aramaic word meaning twin, and Didymus is a Greek word meaning twin. So when we hear, Thomas Didymus, it's all it means is twin. And is that a separate person, or is that a description of someone, and then they over time they just believe that was a separate person,
Now,
rather than a description of another person?
Yep. So interesting. You bring that up, and I'm going to share this story. About a month ago, long story short, I was driving back from Batavia. I somehow dropped kids off at different places. I had like 5 hours free. Don't ask me how it happened, but it worked.
Yeah.
And I happened to see that a person that I've been dying to meet was holding an open house at the spiritual place that she was part of. I'm like, my goodness, I'm free. I can go there on the way. I've been meaning to meet this person. All right. And so I walk into this beautiful, brand new, it's only been open for me since like December, November-ish, like healing center with different healers there, psychologists, all these different people there.
Yeah.
And I walk in, and all of a sudden she sees me and she goes, "I've been waiting to see you." So we've been waiting to meet each other in person. All right. And so I'm talking with other people going around. And then we finally get together, and I go to her, like one of her offices, and we're just sitting there. And she gets out her pad of paper, like for some reason, like we're gonna have a session. So we're talking, and all of a sudden, I talk about the book, and I mention a few things. and she lights up incredibly, especially I mentioned the book of Thomas. She's like, oh my goodness. And I said, do you know what Thomas is? And I go this. And then I explain what happens in the book. And she's like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. This is, it's like resonating, like, oh my, yes. And even with all that stuff. So I share this because everyone I've talked to about it, they come back to me like, oh, yes, it makes sense now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sharing this with you. You've never heard me say that before, but I'm sharing with the two of you because it really, when I read it, I'm like, oh my, tears coming down. I get it. And I felt like I was super close to it all. And you know why?
Mm-hmm.
And the even the vignettes you're writing, okay, put that aside for a second. But when you put it all together, and so one of the things I know I focus a lot on is the science, the spirituality, the history, connecting the dots. And what I found in my journey is a lot of times the science, the literature, the stuff has all these gaps. You said this, all these holes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the spirituality has all these holes. But all of a sudden, if you use logic and reasoning, they meld together. It's like, well, wait a minute. If this book has been taken out for a reason, and this is that, and then he's called a reverend here, or a rabbi here, and this there, but you think about this, you put this into the, it's like, well, and then to understand something you've said, even with the new and writing, Jeff, is the vignettes in different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
To understand, go back to even the 12 disciples. The different perspectives they had. Now, there were a few that were really, we know this, I'm not going to go that far. There were a few that were really close and got it.
Yeah.
The majority were not, and understood for what the time was what they needed to hear.
Yep.
The time is now to understand what was really shared. Yep. And we're starting to feel that, see that, and it's coming out more. But what I'm going to do is I'll put a post up, and you'll get the links. But what we want to do is, the Gospel of the Long Walk. Okay, so that's the book. What we want to do is get it out there so people. It's a short read, 150 pages.
It's a novella, and what we all laughed about is it had to be in big print,
larger print,
yes.
160.
But it's large print. So even those with challenged reading eyes have the ability to see it and to enjoy it. It is available on Kindle, Amazon, but
it's really hard to sign a Kindle.
Yeah.
In case you want autographs.
If you want an autograph, we'll be glad to do that. But lulu.com is the publishing. It's printed on demand, so they're welcome to go there, and we can put those up after. But yeah, it's not a fun read.
Not all the
time. But
there's some funny parts.
There's some funny parts.
I know what's sticking out of my head right away. When Jesus heals the one person.
Yeah.
But
if you think about how things were, and one of the things that we had really pushed for you, and I, here we are at Easter, the series called The Chosen. It's on the third season, and we all know the story. Jesus was born, Jesus died. We know that part, but all the parts in the middle, and to me, The Chosen, while I have some statements about it, it is amazing. And one of our favorite lines in there is, yes, I like goat cheese.
Yes, I like goat cheese.
But having a real human experience of seeing Jesus, Yeshua, interacting with people and children, it to me was just the most amazing series or account of
Yes.
his life, and the challenges that were there for each of the individuals following him. So yeah, people, you can get there. It's a free app. We even went to a
Actually, on Amazon now, you can actually, there's a app on, you can find it. It'll actually play it for you through
yeah,
there.
but it's called The Chosen, and
Mhm.
it is absolutely amazing. A good day, good way of binging on Easter. So, but yeah,
So what we'll do is I'll get the links and I'll put the links up here for people. But what I want to do is at the end of the day, have you back on in like a month, and hopefully Melissa will be healthier, and actually have people read the book ahead of time.
yeah,
Read the novella ahead of time and get more into details. Maybe if people have questions or want to know where did this come from, because one, you had to put it together, and you basically channeled the information to write the books. Now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but and I know how the novella goes. You've got basically it's timelines. You take the two different. It's like two different timelines for people to know. One timeline, and they go in and out, in and out. So you're in the
yeah,
early years, the long walk years, the early years of the
yeah.
crucifixion, and so it goes back and forth. So you are going back and forth a little bit. And am I correct with this? One of you did the one, and the other one did the other,
Correct.
and then you put it together.
I did the perspective of Mary Magdalene or Miriam, and
Mine was of Yehuda.
Judas.
Yes. So
So
And a
it
little bit of
gives
a
you.
Yeshua part too, but
yeah,
So they built it together differently, and it's a different type of read. But you come into it with the story, but what don't you know? What has been left out? What has been taken out
yeah,
of the story to help add some context to it? So then, hopefully, like in a month or so, we can come back and have a conversation and actually answer any questions you have. You can actually get into a little more detail of what it is that we can talk about with the story, because I love the novellas. The what you're coming up next with, Jeff. When you've already started, they're agreeing. I know. I mean, it's a yes of the 2024. There we go. Okay.
yeah.
But it's, how do I say it the best way possible? The simplest way without confusing people.
let me put it this way for you. So there's a tenet in Buddhism of not knowing. And what you do is if you go into anything that is even something that's similar, and you go into with a stance of not knowing and removing the preconceptions that you have, you learn an awful great deal.
Mm-hmm.
If you walk into this book and saying, "Oh, I know the story of these characters," you might hit some brick walls. But if you go in going, "All right, what does this story have to tell me? What do I have to learn from this story?" You're going to feel the catharsis. You're going to feel that tree. You're going to feel
Mm-hmm.
all those.
Oh my goodness! Like, yes, you. That's not that guy. Yes.
And one of the other things, I go right back to that art. If you really look at the art, you've got the different aspects there of the art that are part of the story, so much greater than we usually understand them. The cult, the whole idea of the Old Testament prophecy of Yeshua riding in on the colt, and how that continues to be part of the story. Why put this important thing in there
And
but
then not talk about
and
it ever
then
again.
never talk about it? He's got to go do this. This is part of the prophecy. He's got to do this. Palm Sunday. Most people don't even, they get palms and they're like, why do we have palms? We have no idea what that's even about. But there's these little aspects that you'll start picking up, and then hopefully for me as a researcher, as the understanding from a cultural aspect of learning the other ways, to know that to be called rabbi was not just somebody going, hey, teach. That would not have been acceptable
And it wasn't wise one either. It was that you had certain requirements to be called a rabbi at that time.
And to know that
you want to share them now or later?
Yeah, maybe we'll share them later.
Sure now.
We'll share now.
Sure now. You had to be married. You had to be married, called rabbi.
But not only that,
you had to have a certain number of required offspring.
2 sons at
least
that
2
point,
sons.
at that time in history. Otherwise, you were not blessed by God.
Right.
And to continue the heritage of the Jewish faith.
Yeah.
So if you were not blessed, you were not
weren't
called
taken-
rabbi.
You weren't taken rationally.
You were a different title, Rav.
Rav.
Which was still a very wonderful title, but in order to be called rabbi,
you would not have
had
been
to have
allowed
that.
to go teach. You would not have been allowed to speak in a synagogue. You would not have been allowed to read from the Torah if you weren't
blessed
as
by
a
God.
rabbi. Yeah.
And
let's just keep that out.
But we'll just go over that.
They're not going to know that.
But it's interesting that there's been enough left
just
in our current form of the Bible that those truths are there.
Yep.
So
you just have to look.
You have to look for them. Sometimes you have to really look for the truth. Sad, but
it's the time.
It
really is.
And not everyone is ready for truth.
No. But as I've shared, and I've learned, I've listened to Cryan, and Cryan has shared this as well, Lee Carroll. When we look back, this is going to become the new 0. And what happened when we were at this point is 2,000 plus years ago. I mean, I go back to what you're writing now, Jeff, and the different perspectives and the little vignettes. That's what it was. But now we're going to give the vignettes. And we're going to share with the proper meaning, and they're going to get the proper meaning that was meant to go, that went out 2,000 years ago, but we had to digest it and progress to get to the understanding of it. Now it's more of a, here you go. Let me tell the stories now. And then we see if you can understand the new perspective and a different perspective that's going to bring us forward to where we are.
Things that may have been easily understood by people, when it was written, even 100 years later, are certainly not the same ideas. I mean, even our colloquial phrases that we have in English or in French, say it in a different country, and people are like, "What are you, my little cabbage head? Why would you call me a cabbage head?"
Right.
But in French, that would be a wonderful, thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
But these little things that are misconstrued, and especially misconstrued by those who use religion as
we're saying, and it's a whole other topic.
Yeah. And
it's
that's
a whole
scary.
other topic that we all, and it's fun because we all, deep in our hearts and our souls, we all have the same goal, the same truth we're looking for.
Right.
It's just, can we open our minds to listen to? You said it. Can you go in with a clean slate and pick out what resonates with you?
Yep.
And then you put it together, instead of coming with a preconceived notions or what you're being fed by others. This is what you got to believe and got to know.
Find what your heart tells you.
And the biggest part of, and it's easy to share the rest of that, there's 3 tenets in that Zen Peacemakers. It's the not knowing, going and getting rid of your preconceptions. One of the more important parts is bearing witness to the joy and the suffering of the world. And then once you have that sense of not knowing and the stuff you get from that, and the idea of bearing witness to the story, you can then take loving action and share that with the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And in there, there's no judgments, none whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you should read the book.
It's interesting. You say that. So that reminds me of the Essenians and their 5 aspects of compassion, which almost lines up right with this. Now, to throw it out there, because we're on this conversation, the Essenes, they are often believed to be where Jesus came from. And go figure. Look at this conversation we're having here. And so it seems mean healers when you translate the word, and it's where the Dead Sea Scrolls are found, and it's got the Eastern philosophy built into it, and all that stuff. Look at this, how we just connected like that. But it's been it's almost been an hour here. I've kept you long enough. Somehow we still have 5 viewers. So I know, Darlene, thank you for watching. Stacia, thank you as always. Sheila, I don't know if you're still on, but thank you. Sheila joined in too. And there's a couple others that are watching. Thank you guys for joining me today. Feel free to
next time.
Yes, so do I. Feel free to share this out with anyone you like. Pass along, because it's a neat message, and I really do want to get the book out there so we can all get a chance to read it, discuss it, and we're excited for the next 2 whenever it's time for them to come out. We'll see. Maybe Jeff's will go ahead of the other one.
We have no idea. It is what it is, and we just allow. And we laugh that. I thought I was going to be doing a lot more during the COVID time period, and every time I would write, it was like, nope, not now, and that's okay, you know. And in time and on time is what we always say. It'll be exactly what it needs to be. So
exactly.
But we live to solve.
Indeed.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you guys coming on. Love you both. We'll be in touch shortly. Send me the links to how people can access everything. I'll put it up on both YouTube and wherever I can, so that way we can get out there, and hopefully we'll set up a time for when we're going to do the follow-up, so people know, hey, here's get the book, get the Kindle version of it. You can't get the Kindle version signed, unfortunately, but you can get the book version signed, and then we'll have a discussion on it. And I'm sure people are going to have questions. I know they are, but then we can get deeper into the whole story and what you may even know and more stuff. So, guys, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for watching, and I enjoyed our conversation, and we will talk to you guys soon.
Take care.
So,